presents a new opportunity to do something further, higher, better, you have to be willing. That is your spiritual path. You can't say, oh, that is your spiritual path. Sure. It's to always look for that opportunity for the next best, highest experience or knowledge, or and so that's. What else can you do?
And it sounds like it makes life in this dimension a lot easier.
Well, I was given last night. I was given a what I believe. Okay, all right, great. I'll really share with you.
Go.
I was given
$1 million
what
bucks?
Pardon?
$1 million bucks? You were given $1 million
Yeah,
bucks?
something. No, better than that. Better than that.
Cool.
I was very much disciplining myself to pray last night. And so I was very, very, because I said I went to that art museum yesterday, the Ringling School of Art.
Oh, like
They have these, not School of Art, the Ringling
I
Museum.
don't
There's a painting of Saint Jerome, and Saint Jerome out in the desert, and you see this saint in the furthest, most extreme state of passionate prayer, and it's just, he's out in the wilderness and he's beating his breast, and he's just, you just know he's everything that is humanly possible to know God. This man is doing, and this is captured in a painting of Saint Jerome in the wilderness. So I bought a little postcard of that, and that was what I was sort of using as an inspiration. Chris, don't be, lazy. Don't be like, oh, it's late, I'm gonna go to bed, type of thing. No, really stick with it. Stick with it, right? And of course, I wasn't as strong as I would want to be, and of course, at a certain point, I gave up and fell asleep, but the universe, rather than saying, all right, Chris, you could have done more, you could have done better, which is certainly true, but rather than that, God in His infinite mercy and grace gave me a beautiful, wasn't a dream, but when I woke up in the morning, I had a very clear thought, just a thought that just was there. So, and it just had that feeling like it wasn't a thought, it wasn't me thinking, it was just a thought that was there. And the thought was, hi there.
Hey! What's up, bro? How you doing?
You thought what?
Okay, always before, many years, I've been focusing on loving God, love God, love God, love God, right? And it just was clear in my mind this morning. Love life. Love life. Which was just tweaking, which isn't different than loving God. But it made it a little bit more, I said, well, I can do that. If I say love God, I don't know exactly, how do I do that? I'm willing to, I want to, but where exactly do I go? How do I exactly do that? Well, I don't know, I'll do yoga and I'll pray and I'll read sacred writings and so forth. So this is all my sort of trying to love God the best way I can, be kind to people, live by the rules set forth in the Sermon on the Mount, or whatever. You try to love God, okay, but just having it love life. Wait a minute, I can do that. That's easier somehow. I can do that.
So by loving life, you're loving God too.
That's what I'm saying. It was a little message from God. It's like you don't have to love an abstraction. Don't love me as an abstraction. Love life. And so that just struck me as a wonderful gift from God.
Mm-hmm.
This 2 words, love life.
I just worked on a blog, because I've been writing some blogs for BeliefNet.
Okay.
I think I got about 5 of them up there, and in one of the blogs I was talking about what came out of the Bible when it says we live, breathe, and have our being in the body of God, which is exactly right. In the Gospel of Thomas, when Jesus said, you know, you become one with the living Father, i.e. life.
Life.
I mean, you can't separate yourself from God. You can't separate yourself from life. It's all around you. This is God. There's God. Here's God. There's God. Everything's God. So yes, love every moment. Love everything around you. And recognize that there's no real separation here. If everyone woke up to that realization, that person out there is your spiritual brother. No question. Everyone's cut from the same cloth. I don't care what clothes they wear.
And another thing on this love life thing, okay, that might not be the ultimate reality. There might be further to go on the path. But that's a pretty nice way station. If you get to the love life
Well, if you recognize,
plateau,
Chris,
that's a pretty good plateau to be at.
if you
now,
recognize
from there,
that as all, this dimension, all dimensions, life is every dimension of creation. There's never a moment. Take what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Stay with that.
Right,
Stay with it.
right,
Yes, form changes,
right.
but the concept never changes. When you find a universal law, which you just hit on,
Right.
hold on to the law
Right.
and keep it throughout all.
That's a universal law.
It's a universal law.
Right.
All
And
dimensions.
it's so, what's nice, because, and it doesn't just mean love life like, okay, because everything's great and everything's wonderful. Even the bad things that happen to me, I'm going to love them. Even the arguments I have with people that I, that I hate, I'm going to love them because it's part of life. It's love life in all of its glory and all of its messiness and all of its the things that make sense and the things that don't make sense and the things that work out the way you want them to and the way love it all. Just love
Love the ride.
love the ride. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'll bet, I don't know where we're at in here, but I'll bet when we get into here, we're gonna probably hit on some things that are gonna be confirmation for what you're just saying. And I'm going to take this off of here and leave.
We are at page 38,
Well, you
number
know,
15, is each one to be judged in the end.
there we go. Page 38 of the
Manual for teachers.
Manual
Okay.
for Teachers. Wow, is everyone going to be judged in the end?
Can we start?
Sure, why not?
Indeed, yes. No one can escape God's final judgment. Who could flee forever from the truth? But the final judgment will not come until it is no longer associated with fear. One day each one will welcome it, and on that very day it will be given to him. It will be given him. He will hear his sinlessness proclaimed around and around the world, setting it free as God's final judgment on him is received. This is the judgment in which salvation lies. This is the judgment that will set him free. This is the judgment in which all things are freed with him. Time pauses as eternity comes near, and silence lies across the world that everyone may hear this judgment of the Son of God. Holy are you, eternal, free and whole, at peace forever in the heart of God. Where is the world and where is the sorrow now?
So God's final judgment is what?
It's the judgment that's going to set us free.
But
According-
what is
Well, his final judgment is not the judge. His
Well-
final judgment is recognizing that you're no longer judging.
it? I would say God's final judgment we could sum up as saying it's a declaration.
DECLAR.
AR.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, here we go.
ATION. There you go.
Declaration of innocence. That sound good?
Yeah.
S-E?
C.
C-E. That's it. Yeah. Declaration of Innocence.
No, that's not right. That's close.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Close enough. We all know it. It's a declaration of innocence. That's God's final judgment. So in other words, this is what the Course is constantly saying. It's saying love is eternal. Love's eternal, and your innocence is eternal. Now what we're hitting on, remember hearing about in the Bible the grace of God, and you're saved by God's grace, right? Well, what is God's grace? God's grace is a declaration of your innocence. Maybe I'll rewrite that.
God's grace.
Declaration of your innocence. When you, remember I said the longest time I had this on my wall in my office, salvation is a gift that only requires acceptance. Declaration of innocence. Now, when does this come?
When you stop judging and when you are all forgiving.
When you are all forgiving of everyone and everything, including yourself, and you find everything as perfect as Chris started to talk about here, when you can love life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, without any form of judgment, you're experiencing a declaration of innocence. You're experiencing the grace of God, i.e. the atonement. That is what the atonement is. That's what the Course is all about. Wow, beautiful stuff.
So all the burdens of guilt and why didn't I do this right and why didn't I do that and oh my God, you know, I wish I could go back and do this and that. It all doesn't. The declaration of innocence is.
I just got goosebumps. You don't face it. See this? That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. We just hit on one of the highest, beautiful states that we can possibly experience.
Right. So from a psychological point of view, forgetting from the spiritual point of view, but you know, why do people see psychiatrists? Well, you know, what are neuroses, and you know, it's all these things about, oh my God, I screwed that up and I screwed this up, and you know,
you've been programmed.
And, you know, and so this is like everything you could. This is like a utopia of psychological health. Just to say, if you can get
You fully understand it, right?
Well, if you can accept it, understanding is one thing. I would say in this room, everybody here intellectually gets this.
Right.
Now, accepting it as your reality of experience
Right.
is that's a whole different thing. And now, what happens is, in this dimension, we have experiences, such as Chris shared with us. And what happens is, through that moment, your intellectualized understanding gets validated. As it gets validated, you can make a step forward in terms of acceptance. But earlier, when you're saying you would do anything you could do to progress this, I say the more you understand the mechanics of creation, the more empowered you are to bring this change about. Because what happens is this: no one and nothing in creation has caused you to remain separate in your delusional state. No one is forcing you to stay there. Your belief system is keeping you there. But you're in charge of your belief system.
Right.
When we talk in here about how creation moves. How does creation move? You have a thought. That thought is based upon your belief. That then goes out into the universe and is going to bring you an experience. If it's a delusional thought, i.e. judgment involved, you're going to experience something related to that judgment. Has to be. Has to be. The universe will join you in terms of putting the pieces together and giving it to you, but you initiated it. You. When you understand that, fully understand that, you become empowered to stop it before it starts. I just blogged about reacting and interacting, which we talked about a long time ago. If you're going to react to something, obviously, you've got a program back here that's causing the movement based on a judgment that you're holding. If you withdraw the judgment, you can't react to anything. What can you do? You can love the moment. You can be one with the moment. Two different states. We have love, we have fear. I am in direct agreement with the Course when it says that. Love, I'm interacting. Fear, I'm reacting. That's all you can do. Any given moment. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you're experiencing. I don't care who you're dealing with. You're going to react or interact. If your child comes home with whatever, you're going to either be happy or sad relative to a judgment you're holding. That's reacting. Even if it's good reaction. False evidence appearing real. That's fear. Even if you're praising and wondering, oh, and you're feeling all this stuff. False evidence appearing real. But if you're in that moment and you're just experiencing the love in that moment, you're interacting. Takes practice. Takes practice. But as Chris shared with me, going kayaking today, and you're quieting the white noise of the outer world, and you're changing the pattern of energies, you're breaking that pattern, all of a sudden you open a door to a whole new mindset. Wow. Wow, I never felt this before. It was always here. God doesn't step in and out of our lives, but we get busy with our day-to-day. We get into a pattern. And as we've discussed, from the ego mind, we're almost on autopilot. We react to things from a program. Someone walks through the door, it's almost a given that we would know how we're going to take that person walking through the door because we got a program to work with. People say to me, well, what would you do in this situation? Or what would you do in that situation? You know, I haven't the foggiest idea what I would do. Because what would Spirit tell me to do and what would my ego tell me to do, they're two different things. If I'm awake, I don't know. I really don't. If you ask me from an ego perspective, I could tell you what my ego mind would deem the most appropriate response to in a given moment, as would almost all the inhabitants of the planet. We all know how to respond from an ego-based mind. We've been trained. Anyway, let's pick up where number 2.
Okay, I'll do 2. Is this your judgment on yourself, teacher of God? Do you believe that this is wholly true? No, not yet. Not yet. But this is still your goal, why you are here. It is your function to prepare yourself to hear this judgment and to recognize that it is true. One instant of complete belief in this and you will go beyond belief to certainty. One instant out of time can bring time's end. Judge not, for you but judge yourself, and thus delay this final judgment. What is your judgment of the world, teacher of God? Have you yet learned to stand aside and hear the voice of judgment in yourself? Or do you still attempt to take his role from him? Learn to be quiet, for his voice is heard in stillness. That's good yoga advice right there. And his judgment comes to all who stand aside and quiet listen and wait for him.
Remember the Bible saying God is love and God is that which never changes. You want to experience agape love and you want to connect with God, it can be now. It doesn't have to be 10 years from now. This is basically saying your judgment is keeping you from it, which is true. Anyone who has any form of judgment, and this is why I've talked about the mechanics of creation so much in here, because any form of judgment you hold keeps you orbiting in that cycle of energy that you have initiated, not God. God's not doing this to you. God's not torturing anybody saying you must stay on this treadmill. But you are doing it to yourself. Let it go. You're done. Now, obviously that requires acceptance. You have to be able to accept that that's a truth, or you can't have the experience. Right? If I don't believe it, then my belief gets in the way, and as you believe, so shall it be. Obviously, I can't go beyond my beliefs. It's impossible. I can change my beliefs, but I can't go beyond them. And you want to find out what you believe? Go play in the world for a little while. Won't take you long to find out whether you get just when you think you are out.
That's why you need to play in the world.
Well, this is what the world is for.
And
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, like I said to Chris, I'm not here to judge anybody and say, well, you know, you've been at it too long now. But I am here to say, our Creator has asked me to tell you it's time to wake up. You do that when you feel that you can accept it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. I'm a messenger. Here's the message. You know, you do what you want with it. And and I've been working on delivering it, and I'm gonna keep delivering it to this world. At some point, it'll get out there even bigger. It's coming.
You who are sometimes sad and sometimes angry, who sometimes feel your just due is not given you, in your best efforts meet the lack of appreciation and even contempt, give up these foolish thoughts. They are too small and meaningless to occupy your holy mind an instant longer. God's judgment waits for you to set you free. What can the world hold out to you, regardless of your judgments on its gifts, that you would rather have? You will be judged, and judged in fairness and in honesty. There is no deceit in God. His promises are sure. Only remember that His promises have guaranteed His judgment, and His alone will be accepted in the end. It is your function to make that end be soon. It is your function to hold it in your heart and offer it to all the world to keep it safe.
I made a note the first time I had seen this, back on paragraph 2, line 7. One instant out of time can bring time's end. And I put a few stars there, and what I wrote on the next page was, time's ending is a personal thing. And this is where I've witnessed myself over the years of watching the world and trying to piece some things together in terms of quantum mechanics. I've been looking at the world outside, and there's a part of me that has been holding on to this expectation that as I hold the space of unconditional love, that somehow the world is going to be transformed and you know, awakening. The more I thought about it, the more I looked at it, the more I realized the outward world does not have to reflect your awakened state. Nor will it. That's an expectation that we have to let go of. You have the responsibility for maintaining your connection and your awareness to God, regardless as to what's out there. Regardless as to how you're perceived or accepted by anyone. Doesn't matter. And that's a challenge. I can attest to that. It truly is a challenge. But it's a truth. Understanding the mechanics of creation definitely will help in that regard. Recognizing that the atonement is not something coming. The atonement has already taken place.
This is the atonement.
The atonement is the accepting of what is.
Yes, and specifically, not just what is, but specifically of your own innocence.
Yes.
Once you accept that, if atonement means reconciliation with God, in other words, a
Right.
return from our fallen state of separateness to a state of where unity or loving oneness with God, or to use a metaphor of the Old Testament, thrown out of the Garden of Eden, getting back into the Garden of Eden.
Rebirthing, so to speak,
A
too.
lot of ways to explain this.
Sure.
But certainly that seems like the key there, the moment that you accept that your innocence,
Right. Then it's not.
then it's not.
And I'd say keep going over that in your minds, realizing you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. This is a done deal. It's a done deal. You're not perfecting yourself.
Right.
You're accepting your perfection. You're not perfecting yourself, you're accepting your perfection. Totally different things. You're keeping yourself away from this by a false belief. That's the only thing that's keeping you in the dark, so to speak. An attachment to a false belief. Now, granted, your belief changes in increments as you have experiences. That's the evolution of consciousness. But the reality is, it's already a done deal. And this is one of the things the Course talks about. When you finally wake up, you realize, wait a minute, forgiveness wasn't even necessary. How could there be forgiveness necessary when it was all an illusion? If you can believe, if you can accept that the world outside as you perceive it is not real, it makes it easier to recognize this declaration of innocence. If you can't believe that it's an illusion out there, then all of the judgments you're holding about you and everyone else, you're going to hang on to. And this is one of the reasons why in the Bible it says you can follow the letter of the law 99% and miss one point, you're guilty of the whole. Because if you're holding on to one little thing, then you're keeping an illusion alive. How are you going to be outside of illusion if you're holding it and keeping it alive? Doesn't matter the degree. Right? And this is why the Course in Miracles says there are no degrees of difficulty. There are no degrees of difficulty. One thing is just as detrimental as something this big, this much or this much. A dream is a dream. When you recognize it's a dream and you wake up from it, what detail had to be fixed? That's why people say, well, I want to make this a better world. You know what? I'm not here to make this a better world. I'm here to wake up and live in the awakened state and to share with others. You can wake up. Don't try to fix your world.
Yeah, but you are making it a better world by
Oh yeah, but we're not going to go down that road.
by
Yeah,
sharing this
absolutely.
knowledge with
Well,
others.
let me say, I'm adding to a positive flow, and the energies are growing, and so on and so on. But ultimately, I don't want to focus on
I know
that.
what you
I want to
mean. You're
focus
not
on.
right.
I want to focus on this.
Not
The
focus
world
on
can be
greed.
whatever it is.
You're not saving whales, you're not.
No. Because if you recognize it as an illusion, then nothing here to fix. And the easiest way to remember that is you are having a temporary experience and you're an infinite being. It's like going on vacation. We're all going to go on a vacation. We're going to go to, I don't know, let's go to the Bahamas and we rent some little shack. And we go in there and the wallpaper's falling off the wall and, the front door's coming off the hinges. But we're only there for a couple of weeks. Got a beautiful beach there. What would you do? Would you go and get the hammer and nails and the new wallpaper and start fixing up the camp?
That's a really
Good analogy. Or would you just go relax and enjoy the shit out of your vacation on the beach?
That's a great analogy.
When you first started with the, talking about the Declaration of Innocence, I wrote down a phrase here. It's the total acceptance of your spiritual self.
Hallelujah. Absolutely.
That's
You
what I
ready?
wrote down.
But why do you say, excuse me, I'm not,
Because
why do you say spiritual love? Why not just say yourself?
because you hear the phrase, You're a spiritual being having a human experience.
Okay.
So I think, you know,
To differentiate.
Right.
To differentiate, and I think I personally believe it's vitally important to differentiate your spirit from your human self. No question. Because when I hear this over and over again, well, you know what, I'm only human. Well, the moment you put that thought back here, thought is creative energies. The moment I say I'm only human, what does that mean?
what you
Well,
are.
I can't do this because I'm that. I heard my own mother say to me years ago, well, if I lived as you said in your book, I'd be perfect and I wouldn't need to be here. Well, duh. Why
She
not
got
live
it.
that? you know how to be perfect. Why not live perfect? Which reminds me, I was going to do a blog. I remember years ago, I was in the floor covering business for a number of years, and I was single for a while. And I remember thinking, I had a nice house and had a pool in the backyard, and I started thinking, well, shit, well, what am I going to do with my life? There's more to life than this. And then I thought, well, maybe I could go help people. Maybe I could sell everything I have, go buy a farm somewhere or something, and like the Boys Town. I used to donate to the Boys Town, and I thought maybe bring kids that don't have parents and help mold them and help them. And in that instant, when I had this thought, I was in my probably late 20s at the time. I started thinking about that, and I thought, shit, no, I can't do that. I got too many things I want to do. Too much of my life for me to devote my life for that. Well, I mean, it was what it was. It was, and it was a beautiful, perfect moment for me to see. In retrospect, I see I was being called to play, but I mean, God's not going to say, well, you didn't listen to me, so you're going to go to hell for it. No, it was something that I was being called to, and maybe it was a path I could have chosen. I didn't choose that path. I chose something else. But we all have choices in every given moment what we want to do with our lives. And they're for me and mine, or for me and mine. When I see spiritually, it's for humanity, it's for all, it's for God, it's for all that is. When I see me and mine, and I see the ego personality and the human self, me and mine become more important than that. And that's what Christ meant when he said, you really want to be my disciple, you got to forsake the small relationship in lieu of the big relationship. Now, does that mean that me and mine here, I got to get rid of all of them and sever all relationships? No, it means I elevate all these relationships and now everyone is equal. Changes the mindset. Totally. All of a sudden, the moment I start looking with spiritual eyes, the purpose in the day-to-day function, my treasure has been transformed.
See, that's funny. You say the day-to-day function, because the next chapter is, how should the teacher of God spend his day?
There you go.
So it goes right into a practical.
Yeah. How big is that one? Oh, that's a pretty big one.
We're not going to get into
We're
that.
not going to get into that, but you know what? Maybe just look at the first chapter of that one, because we
First couple
just.
paragraphs?
Yeah, why not?
What's the title?
How should the teacher of God spend his day?
All right, let me just see if I can find it. My next one is how is correction made?
And the very first sentence of that first paragraph I underlined it and I put a star beside it. And it says this: to the advanced teacher of God, this question is meaningless. Right? And this is exactly what I was saying before. When somebody says to me, well, what would you do in this situation? What would you do if this happens? My response is always, well, not always, I'd say for the last decade or so, has been the same. If they ask me, what would you do if this happened, or you're in this situation, my response is, I haven't a clue. That's my response. Why? Because when you recognize that it's all an illusion, and you are a conduit now for spirit, what do you really know about what's coming? And if you look at creation from that eternal view, what do I know about the details of this moment? What do I know about that person out there? The person who just developed cancer, for example. Should they or shouldn't they be having that experience?
Well, obviously they should, or they wouldn't be having it.
Should they or should they not die from that?
It's not my place to judge.
Exactly. So that's why if somebody came to me and said, pray for so-and-so so that they recover from da-da-da, if that person didn't come to me and ask me directly for my help, I say, no, I'm not interfering.
And if that person did come to you directly?
I would offer them unconditional love, and I would offer them love and light and whatever is best for their journey. That's how I would respond to that. But I'm not going to pray for somebody to get over something. I've seen where groups and families pray to this person recovers from this, and who says that person wasn't supposed to die in that instant? And that's not the best possible outcome for all involved.
I follow you, but who's saying that group shouldn't come together?
Well, let me say this. I'm saying this, that there are degrees of understanding. And to the advanced teacher of God, the question is meaningless. To someone who fully understands, all you would offer is love. You would never withhold love. You offer love, but without your judgment. You see, there's a big difference between offering someone unconditional love and whatever's best for their journey than trying to put a condition upon that journey. Who's in a position to know what is the most appropriate for someone else's next step? I don't know.
Right, so to respond to what Peggy just said, right, that person who's dying or very sick, okay, but you don't know what is the right
Sure.
result for it, okay? Well, but then all those people coming together who love that person, praying for that person, right, they should also do that. Now, here's the difference. Let's say he dies, okay? If I'm a member of that group, I can't say, well, gosh, God didn't hear my prayers, or gosh.
Plenty of people do feel that.
Well,
Exactly, but then those people came together in the wrong, in the wrong spirit. I mean, they didn't quite grasp. Like, it's great for those loving people,
Right.
the people that love that person, to come together. That's great in and of itself. What happens to that person is going to happen to that person. And so in other words, you can't go, and our getting together is great in itself.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens to that person, we have to accept with complete equanimity and complete peace of mind and gratitude. I mean, even go so far as gratitude, to say gratitude. Because then there's a gratitude that that person did what they had to do. And we came together as people that love them, so we did what we had to do. So we all played our role perfectly. And there can be no regrets, there can be no lack of gratitude, there can be no sadness.
And there's an absolute truth in each moment, and there's a relative truth. In terms of relativity, in terms of where everyone's conscious state happens to be at that given moment, for those people coming forward in prayer, because they believe that that's what they should do, I'm not questioning and saying there's anything wrong with that. By no means.
No, there's something
Everything
very
within
beautiful.
creation, there is a perfection in creation. Always, in terms of relativity. Wherever you are in terms of your unfoldment of consciousness, the experience that you're having is perfect. Okay? If those people believe that, as they believe that, God bless them. You have that experience. This is another way, this is another level, this is the spiritual view. You're hearing this and you're sitting here and kind of comprehending it. People walking in the door for the first time would never accept what I just said because they're not ready to hear that. Remember when Jesus said, for you it's meant that you understand the mysteries of the kingdom, but for them it's not? Okay? These are very, very elevated truths. What we're talking about here, these are the final steps to getting to the Declaration of Innocence. This is the final step to the atonement. You know, this is not the beginning levels we're talking about here. Okay? So if somebody's experiencing something in the world and they believe that to be true, God bless them. That's good for them. This, however, this is for the atonement. I thought about, years ago, I thought about creating a school for the transmigration of soul. And basically this is what we're doing. I mean, I had this vision of doing it on a much bigger, and who knows, maybe it will and maybe it won't, doesn't matter, but the idea is, in order to move from here to there, we do that through understanding. As you understand, you can now implement changes within your conscious state, which brings about movement. Okay? The final movement is accepting innocence everywhere and seeing the perfection. You're not going to go higher than unconditional love. It's the highest state you're going to make. And that goes beyond time and space. You've arrived. Back to the Garden of Eden. Back to the eternal now moment. So anyway, yes, teachers of God to the advanced teacher of God.
And then also all your powers then, to use a sort of the language of humanistic psychology, all your powers then, none of them are wasted in guilt and doubts and things. That means that all your power is available for you to throw into whatever it is you're going to do.
You're not distracted.
You're not distracted.
Exactly.
You can be 100% in whether you're making love or whether you're making art or whether you're making a business or whatever you're doing, you can be 100% there.
Sure. That's true. Yeah.
So which see, this just adds, which gives you more pleasure in the moment. So it's like a self-reinforcing, so it's good, you know, it just gets better.
Yeah, no, it gets to a point where there is no words or description that can describe what the atonement can be. You can't put that into a vibration of words, but you can experience it. And no one can tell somebody else what it is. That can't be done.
So now my goal is to have no visitors, so I never have.
They can say it's doable. To me, Jesus Christ came here to demonstrate this is doable.
Oh, are they here?
He's a savior. Buddha was saying, here's the secret. Detach yourself from the outward world. There you go. You're here. This Ram Dass wrote a book, Be Here Now. What was he talking about? The exact same state. Rumi, when you read or listen to Rumi, what was Rumi talking about? The exact same state. And just like Chris was describing, Rumi, I listened to some poetry that was written by Rumi, and Rumi said, I want to die to myself. You ever read this or hear this? I want to die to myself and see you with 1,000 eyes. Meaning, all my garbage I want to get rid of. I want to get out of that mindset. I want to be here and connected to you, talking to God. And God's response to Rumi was, knowing me doesn't mean dying. When the ego personality, when you're through and you lay down your ego personality, that's the first time you're truly alive. That's life. You're not dying. You're finally alive. Big difference. But the ego personality doesn't understand that. The ego's not going to go with you. The judgmental mind cannot live in this present moment. It can only live in the dimension of time and space. It's true. True stuff. So, the next line. We've got a couple more minutes. There is no program for the lessons change each day. Yet the teacher of God is sure of but one thing. They do not change at random. Seeing this and understanding that it is true, he rests content. In other words, there's a perfection in creation. and Peggy would always love to hear, the Holy Spirit will orchestrate the interplay, and you can just relax. What do you need to do? What do you need to figure out? See, the moment we think we have to figure it out, we can't be part of the moment. I remember, and I know I shared this a couple times, God said to me, and I remember hearing this, and remember I wrote it, and I went over it a couple times. God said, stop trying to make your dreams my reality. How many of us try to make our dream God's reality, rather than it is what it is? Trust God more than you trust yourself. That goes against everything that I grew up with and believed in terms of business. I always believed, wait a minute, God helps those who help themselves, and I have to do all my planning or things are not going to go right. That's the business human mind. Remember in the Bible when it says to go down this path, you will become a fool to the world? Because to trust God goes contrary to what I believed was necessary. I believed I had to orchestrate it. I believed I had to be the initiator. Well, to some degree I do. I have to be the initiator in that I got to choose to trust God more than I choose to trust me. That's a hard thing, let me tell you. Anyone who's going to go down that path is going to find it's a very, very difficult road to just blindly trust.
Right.
Absolutely. But the next one says, and those who share that role with him will find him, so they can learn the lessons for the day together. Not one is absent whom he needs. Not one is sent without a learning goal already set, and one which can be learned that very day. So again, what this is all telling us is there's a perfect orchestration that is happening beyond what you are capable of seeing. It's all coming down to trust here. For the advanced teacher of God, then, this question is superfluous. It has been asked and answered, and he keeps in constant contact with the answer. He is set and sees the road on which he walks, stretched surely and smoothly before him. Remember when Christ said, well, why worry about tomorrow? Tomorrow will take care of itself. Look at the lilies. God takes care of them. You think God doesn't have the capacity to orchestrate the interplay in all the pieces and lay it out in a perfect orchestration? The only thing that gets in the way of your accepting that is your own beliefs, your thoughts, your judgmental mind, and your program. So it always comes down to this. You trust God or self. Who knows more? Or you say, well, I can trust God, but I think he forgot me for a while. God wouldn't put me in this situation or give me that to deal with or that. No, I don't believe it. No. So I think tonight, the biggest thing that I'm hearing is trust. It is or it isn't. And this is one of the reasons why in the Course in Miracles, I have said this over and over and over again. It's an all or nothing deal. It is or it isn't. The Course says this, and this is what most people who study the Course never really grasp or can accept. The Course says, you accept this in its entirety or not at all.
Right, and the world, the intelligence of the world says be skeptical.
Yes.
You know, look for
Yes.
the angle. Look for the,
Yeah.
don't
Something
put all
wrong
your
here.
eggs in one basket. You know, be shrewd. Be shrewd. You know,
Don't be the fool.
find the catch. Don't be a
Sure.
right.
Sure.
And now, but we are saying, do not go ahead, trust.
Well, I look at it this way too. When I first had trouble with this acceptance thing, and I can't tell you that I haven't had a moment along the way, but I'll say this. One formula that worked for me, that helped me get over my Christian-based thinking, was, I said, okay, from a Christian standpoint, I believed God's going to judge me when I'm done. That's what I was taught. Then I looked at this whole picture, and I looked at everything, and I looked at my life, and I said, okay, all right, let me just play devil's advocate for a second. Let me just say that the Christians are right, and the teaching and the religion, and I'm going to be judged when I die. Okay? And then I look and I say, from the moment I've accepted all of this concept, I've done my best, I live my life on a day-to-day basis to surrender my will and open myself to sharing unconditional love with the world through non-judgment and trusting God. Okay? Imagine for a moment that you died with that kind of belief system and you're standing before God and God's going to judge you. What do you think God would say to you?
Thanks for waking up.
How can you lose? This is a no-lose situation if you go this route. It's impossible. You're practicing unconditional love. You think, oh, God's going to... Oh, you screwed up. You weren't supposed to live for unconditional love. No, I was supposed to go pick up a gun and kill somebody. I'm supposed... No. It's a no-lose. It's a no-brainer. It's the highest vibration there is. It's right there waiting for you, and all you got to do is accept it. Accept that God created perfection. Take your judgment out of the equation and live. And love life. The only way that you're going to love life fully is to withdraw your judgment of the moment. And then you will love everything and everyone. You'll recognize that there is nothing but perfection. And now we're hitting on the highest points of the Bible when the Bible says all things work for good for those who love God. There was no exceptions mentioned. It didn't say except this or that or that. Now what that means is there is no longer a negative. Duality collapses. How could all things work for a positive in terms of a dualistic system? Can't happen. When you awaken, you realize that dualism is no longer a reality of experience for you. It may be outside of you and it may be something for people to play in, but it's not a reality for you. You all of a sudden become in the world but not of the world anymore.
The kid in the stands reached out and grabs it. It was a fair ball. He was in
All
fair
good stuff.
territory. The kid
All easy.
reached out and grabbed it.
And now when you read your Bible, I remember you saying something about you wanted to do a Bible study. Read your Bible and look at the verbiage in terms of awake and asleep.
Right.
Spiritual.
I want us to do that very much. I hope we do.
What's next?
I really hope we
Because we're
do.
done with this one.
I have no
We're
idea.
into the Bible.
Cubs lost the game. That was
I have no idea. Maybe we may touch on part of it. I don't know. But
Start with it and see where it goes.
who knows? But the idea is, whether you pick up the Bhagavad Gita, whether you pick up the Bible, whatever you pick up, look at it in terms of the infinite spiritual as opposed to the ego judgmental. Everything that you look at, I don't care what it is, I don't care who wrote it. If you really want to get to its frequency and its vibration, look at it in terms of infinite, unconditional love or the ego judgmental mind. And you'll see a vibration in everything you pick up. You will. And you'll be able to discern how much ego's involved, and if there's ego involved, and where it is.
I think you see a vibration in everything and everywhere you go.
Sure.
I mean, I've walked into houses before and I'm like,
Yes.
it's thick in here. And then you go other places where it's light and airy. It's a vibration. You're
Everything
picking up
is.
on.
Everything has a frequency about it.
Yep.
And you resonate with some, and some you feel like,
Uh-huh.
Right.
no, I don't need this.
So Mickey, you know, there's no Brill Cream is here next week.
Yeah, so it's yeah.
Brill Cream next week. And if you guys, whoa, little baby, push that over.
Oh, the face on that baby.
If you want to do this, I'll wait till Peggy gets back. What I was thinking was, if you wanted to take a little break from the course, Gibran wrote the book, The Prophet. I know Peggy's got a copy. Have you read The Prophet?
No.
Have you read The Prophet by Gibran? I have it on a DVD, audio, very good. And what I thought was, if you want to take 1 week break of the course, read The Prophet, jot down notes, whatever you want to talk about, bring them in here, and I would play the audio. It's about a 45-minute. It's beautiful. It's done to music.
Oh wow.
It's an old recording, but it's very, very good.
Sounds wonderful.
I'm sorry? Gibran.
He's Lebanese.
He's Lebanese, and he wrote the book, The Prophet. To me, it's everything we talk about
He
in
was a
here.
Lebanese Christian. He was a Maronite Christian.
And he talks to me, he's talking about the awakened state. And so I thought, you know, it might be good to listen to it and have a discussion about it.
Yeah, baby.
And
She's a happy baby.
that would be a week from this coming Tuesday if you want to do that. That would give everybody plenty of time to look up the book. You can buy it. You can read it online actually.
Right.
You can get a PDF online and read it right there.
Yeah, that sounds
Sound good?
That sounds good. So
Yeah.
a week from, 2 weeks from tonight,
2 weeks from tonight.
we'll do the Prophet.
Right. And I'll bring
Good.
well, yeah, I don't know whether I'll play it over this or just bring my boom box and
Yeah. Great. That sounds great.
it's, to me, it's excellent. You know, again, this is why I say, if the more exposure you get from different angles,
Right.
the more you can accept for yourself.
Right.
I'm just saying, 2 weeks from today, now next week it's going to be Brill Cream. 2 weeks from today, I just talked about maybe, I have the Prophet on a DVD. Very, very good record. Well, sound quality is not the best, but it was professionally done, and
You ever noticed that?
it's good.
You still before.
I know you got a copy at home. I said if everybody wants to read the book between now and then, jot down some notes. It's about 45 minutes to listen to it, to listen the whole thing from beginning to end, and then we could have a little discussion about it. Take a break from this for 1 week if you'd like.
Sure.
It's another way of going at seeing what we're talking about here and bringing it together. You know.
Okay.
I think you'll like that. It's a nice recording.
Go.
Okay. I just have to find it.
If you can't find your copy, if you go online,
I'm
you
sure
can get a
I can
PDF. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I never read it. I read it on the internet. You know, the PDF of it.
My copy was a gift to Shane. So it's
Yeah.
actually my son's copy.
Okay.
And it was funny, he came home at Christmas time and I had taken his books and put them by category and then size order so it looked neat as opposed to that chaos he had. He was trying, couldn't take it. He walks in, he takes one look at it, and he's all right. I put one book in there, one book that wasn't his.
Right.
That was, we went to New Mexico, it was on Los Alamos. He knew without, threw that one book on, what's this?
All the books you could have pulled out.
He knew that was not his book. So, somewhere amongst that chaos is his book. So I'll see if I can find it. If not, I'll get it somewhere.
Yeah.
Library, Books and Nobles, Barnes and Noble, something.
Yeah, I thought it'd be. I thought we'd have some time in between, to read it, and whatever points in there that you look at and you're reading and say, this is something I'd like to talk about or discuss. Then when we listen to it,
Oh, I don't know about the
what I was thinking was, as we're listening to it, we can shut it off at any point and talk about any, just give a signal that let's stop there. Then we'll hit that point or whatever.
Okay, that sounds good.
To me, he was right there,
Okay.
and he was talking about everything that we're here talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think you're right.
if you see it from his angle, you see it from Rumi's angle, you see it from Jesus, you see it from, Krishna. I mean, you can get it from Jesus in the Course. Eventually, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I guess this is all one truth. Because basically what it boils down to is intellectually, I think everybody here on an intellectual basis gets a fundamental understanding. Now it's a question of incorporating it into your acceptance and being.
Everyday life.
Everyday life. And this is, when the Bible says your treasure is going to be tested in the fire, well, you're cooking. You're in it.
We're cooking, all right.
Hey, you're it.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Wonderful day. Wonderful day.
I just
Thank
hope
you.
it's kitchen and not hell. We're cooking.
You are good. I mean, when Jesus said, people came and thought I came into this world to bring peace, he said, no, I came in to set the world ablaze, the fire. This is what he was talking about. To make that transition is a challenge. And for some people it might even be like hell. In a sense it can be.
Yeah.
If you want to look at hell, what is hell? Hell is the struggle that you're going through to awaken. That's hell. Someone is this much and somebody's